choose and walk among the groups of two. It's not ideal, it's just how we feel. It's a shame we're easily amused. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Cast a stone and get a hardcore view. Catchphrase of the day is that it's true. There's no coffee talk and only one way to please. It's a shame what you do moves me. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rebellious Ufology. I'm so happy to welcome you to today's show on YouTube and Twitch, as well as Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spreaker, and Anchor FM. And if you like what you see here today, consider joining the rebellion by hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to ring the bell to get notifications on all of our videos. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Rebellious UFO and Instagram at Rebellious Ufology. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, I have a morning show right here on Rebellious Ufology that I'd love for you to check out and join us. Every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, I give you the UFO podcast daily lineup where I tell you who's on that day, what time they'll be on, and what they'll be talking about. And we always have a fun conversation. Lately, we've been talking conspiracy theories, so there's never a better rabbit hole to go down than a good conspiracy theory. So today, we will be talking with Jared Murphy. Jared is a podcaster, researcher, and author of It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us. The evidence from historical record, legends, and myths are shouting that it wasn't aliens, that the advanced technologies are echoes of a human society we do not have a written record of. We have the remnants of their buildings, genes, and the sciences that point to a highly advanced human race that survived multiple catastrophes and to this day may live among us. It's not aliens, worse, it's us. Jared has been on numerous podcasts and events to talk about everything from the Templars in America to ancient nanotechnology and vibrational medicines. And you can check out his website at www.notaliens.us. And he also has a YouTube channel, and both of those links are down in the description below. And just a reminder before we start, if you do have a question, please type it in all caps in the chat so I can see it easier. And if you know someone who might enjoy this conversation, please feel free to share the love, share the show so that they too can join us. And we are a show run completely on donations, which can be made on Buy Me a Coffee if you wish to do so. The link is in the description down below, and we always appreciate any help that you can give. Okay, everyone, so let me get Jared on. So nice to see you all here, by the way. Let me get Jared on so we can start the conversation. It's going to be a good one tonight, guys. Hey, Jared, welcome to the new channel. I'm so excited to have you here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
From notaliens.com. And how are you feeling? How are you liking your new space?
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. It's so nice. I'm just kind of doing whatever and having a good time with it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So I'm so excited because I know there are some people here that are new with your work, and I've been pumping you up and to them and being like, you guys are going to love Jared. You're going to love him, because I know we have some ancient civilization fans in the audience tonight. So it's going to be
it's a total lie. We're going to do nothing but improv and sock puppets.
Well, that is also true. That is also true.
She does what she wants, and none of it has to do with why you're watching. How's that to turn people out?
See?
Yay.
Jared knows me.
Well, I appreciate everyone who's joined in live. Thank you, everyone, for listening and being here. It's it's always great to have the support of everyone out there, because this is all of our history. It really isn't. It is not a search and recovery. It is a search and rescue. Our history is so relevant to who we were, who we are, We have so many questions in it, and it runs the gamut. It runs the world. It's very much a central question. Thank you, Chris.
Akashi is one of the biggest ancient civilization fans I know. So I was telling her I'm friends with Chris, and I was like, Chris, if nobody else comes, you need to come tonight to listen to Jared.
We will all have a drink and apparently
Yes.
go for deep down the rabbit hole.
Yes. Always love a good rabbit hole, like I said. So, okay, so let's go over your work for those who, because like I said, I know I have some like people that are going to be new to you, or you're going to be new to them, and I want to kind of give them like an overall overview of what it is that you specialize in, and then let's also talk about what you're doing right now, because it sounds really interesting, and I know nothing about it, so that's why it sounds so interesting to me, because I want to learn all about it. So,
all right.
Let's start with your kind of the premise. Like what got you started in all of this? Where did it take you?
Let's see. So sometimes the origin question goes all the way back to like, when were you interested? And for me, it was, I was that little boy who wanted to dig up dinosaurs, and then saw Indiana Jones and wanted to find, of course, the golden monkey and save the girl and kill Nazis. I thought that was great. And
Me
then
too.
I know. And then I was like, oh, I don't care about that megalithic stuff, because I've been in the Natural History Museum and I saw those rock banging monkey people, big giant megalithic past is boring. And that's where I stayed. And then my interest in quantum mechanics and like Schrodinger, in search of Schrodinger's cat. And I started questioning things early on. Thank you for me being raised Catholic. And secondly, I got into acoustics and music through the violin, and then just had a lifelong fascination with just all of these questions. Like my religion didn't seem to have any of the answers I was asking. And it wasn't about belief. It was about, okay, well, this contradicts this and this contradicts that. And this seems to be written then. And this, like, I just had the early questions, and it led me down to a course of writing where I spent we're fast forwarding a bunch. But one of the things I did was spend 3.5 years working on this book called It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History. And met my publisher in California during Contact in the Desert. And then we released it just as I was getting back from an expedition to Africa, to the Stone Circle Lodge and where Adam's calendar is. And I'd spent a month in South Africa. And the premise of the book was originally just going to be who are the oldest mummies on Earth? And they're the Practice and Peru, looking at not a non-fictional book, but one that was basically plotted in what are the oldest mummies on Earth that we could reanimate in order to maybe jog their memories and find even older things on Earth. And I was going to build a fictional story on that. 2-3 days into research, I found out about a thing called terra preta, which is an ancient engineered soil. And the thing that no one's looking at, because soil isn't as sexy to others sometimes as it is.
No, shocking.
Yeah, right. And so who would have thought that in the savannas of South Africa, where I was, in North Africa, in Brazil, to the tune of, the current estimates are that it's twice the size of Spain just in Brazil. But this is a man-made biochar that does a number of different things. It filters heavy metals and carbon dioxide. And, there's all this conversation about, we could go down oh, wait, aren't we trying to save the world? And it looks like there was an ancient society already working that out. And not only does it filter heavy metals and carbon dioxide, it's the richest growing soil on Earth. So for those of you out there who are into the paleo or healthy eating world, or vibrational medicine, and you're looking for highly densely nutrient food, you may have actually stumbled, like I did about 10 years ago, about this illegally exported potting soil called terra preta, because it's the best stuff you could grow your food in, because it has this eerie ability to also self-replicate, not just because there's new composting materials, but basically I spent 3.5 years figuring out that we have an ancient engineered product that isn't just to transform. There's a couple layers. There's nomadic or primitive or dynastic peoples in the last 5,000-6,000 years that have been using it. But it seems that based on the layers that it's been used for much longer. And it means that outside of the narrative, you can't have a soil 6,000 years ago plus in North Africa, South Africa, literally South Africa, the country, but
Mhm.
all over South Africa. And in Brazil, those, they're not supposed to be connected, and they're not
Mhm.
supposed to be in Central America. The soil or different forms of biochar are in vast quantities in areas that have been considered nomadic. And so from there, my background is also in historical remodeling. And as someone who deals with a lot of old architecture, and particularly architecture that's been modified or maintained or changed over the last 130 years,
Mhm.
it's not too hard to extrapolate when you look at a building that has giant megalithic blocks and then say, oh, yeah, well, they fell out of a phase of using very tight fitting polygonal construction, and then they switched to rubble. And,
Yeah.
and, and then you're like, well, it led me further down. Okay, well, there's always these disconnected, disjointed disciplines, whether it's in vibrational medicine and consciousness. But what we
Mhm.
have, like from books like Born to Run with Christopher McDougall, put out a wonderful book that got everybody into the 5-finger shoes and running barefoot. And the whole
Mhm.
point was connecting to the earth. There's an electronic, you have an electron discharge.
Mhm.
Perhaps there was a group of people already on this planet and had quantum sciences down, had an interconnectivity between ancient advanced engineered soil, not only for growing food, but filtering heavy metals and chemicals that they were maybe overproducing or hadn't quite balanced at some point in their history, with mental abilities like synesthesias that we take for granted are natural. Yet, in the field of research I did in 3.5 years, to me, it appears that there are hundreds of thousands or millions of years of human history, not just based on the technological accomplishments of giant megalithic buildings, but
Mhm.
also that the soil itself runs under those buildings. And one of the things that I'm planning is to test for that work. So I've done a documentary recently that is out on my YouTube channel on Not Aliens, on Not Aliens, not just notaliens.com. There's a link on the YouTube channel on Not Aliens. But the idea is to uh, try to prove out that these
Mhm.
giant stone spheres have to do with cymatics and frequency energy, that the
Mm.
giant polygonal constructions not only have to do with earthquakes and maybe connecting to our brain and synesthesias and other disjointed, not related sciences or interpretations, esoteric interpretations, that maybe they're actually just different modalities that we are relating to a safe moded, ancient, advanced, terraformed planet that had much more engineering around it. And that is all a lot for everyone to take in, but that is
Mm.
actually the premise for my original book, which
Yeah.
has now been revised and will be coming out in the next couple months. But that is what I wrote on for 3.5 years. And
Mhm.
then also what I research and continue to do field research. And that hopefully is that global enough to get everybody up to speed, you think?
I would think so. Yes. It's great. So when does the new revision come out? You said it's coming out soon, correct?
Man, it's been worked on since December, and I'm happy to say that love to come back on. We'll try to get pre-orders ready to go in the next maybe 4 to 6 weeks max,
Yeah,
and then
awesome.
we'll have it out within 2 months. But
Yeah.
it's going to be all in color. We've added 88 pages so
Wow.
far. The last couple chapters are in revision. Um, it's so vast and so advanced. They're really just what's really going to come of it is there are breakdowns in disciplines, whether it's
Mhm.
superhuman stuff like Wim Hof and learning to control your immune system or your body temperature, or different meditative just meditation techniques that are more related to maybe brain entrainments, to your eating and health. Like I'm not saying a diet, not like paleo or anything, as a
Mhm.
more as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
There are indications that all of these things and all these consciousness inducing states and or positive gene expression. I mean, we go into a little bit of all of it, but there's no way to cover it in one book.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. We have a couple of questions, so let's go to those really quick so I don't forget about them because I would do that. So YJ Overlander, I think this is in reference to the soil, I'm assuming. So shape has much to do with effects as composition.
So shape in reference to like, I guess I'm not sure what
I'm
in
not sure
reference to what
either.
shape.
I don't know. Maybe when you were talking about the spheres, you're talking about the rock spheres, right?
Oh,
I think, if I remember
absolutely. So
correctly.
like, yeah. So if it's about the stone spheres, one of the things that likes to be pointed out is that they're found all over. It started in Costa Rica with the banana
Mm.
plantations, and They're found in Russia, in the Arctic Circle. They're found in San Francisco when they were building streetcars in the early 1900s. David Hatcher Childress loves to talk about them. They're found in Bosnia to 64 tons, and they're not perfectly round. And the dismissive point is that, oh, they're just natural concretions when volcanoes over billions of years decided, it'd be fun. Let's make volcanic snowballs. And
Right.
so what we don't have on the stone spheres is we don't have metamaterial testing, but we do have scientists that I quote in my book that have done spherical 1 by 1 meter concrete sphere testing as wave resonators. And these ancient stone spheres some of them are not perfectly round, probably because they were, eroded, but many of them I think are shaped specifically to frequencies that they are either supposed to enhance or mute. Or in the process of wave resignation, they might be producing some function that the building or people or the connectivity system is now gone. And so the polygonal constructions with the engineered soils, excuse me, and stone spheres seem to be part of a global network that was using very low frequency, maybe high frequency also, but at least current theories, we're not, it's not like we're trying to focus on any of it, but the very, very, very low base waves and frequencies and systems that are within the Earth's crust, that are within the system of just us in a solar system, spinning around a sun, spinning around a galaxy, spinning in a universe.
Yeah.
For energy, for communication, there's a lot of different options, but the stone spheres, I think, relate in shape to the frequencies that they're supposed to be resonating or muting or dampening or enhancing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask you, what was the purpose of these frequencies or these resonating
the studies on the stone spheres that they've done in Europe, and I cite the papers. They realize that depending on the size of the stone spheres and in groups, if you put them like, the example has them in like kind of an egg carton situation where you have them set under an entire city complex of some kind, underneath the city at a certain distance or depth, and whatever wave or frequency is coming from whatever earthquake so many miles in the crust or wherever, it would displace or enhance whatever wave or frequency those spheres were set to disrupt or enhance. So those, from what their experiments was to put the spheres underground, which is where we keep finding them. And of course, the standard academic answer is, well, they were shaped for important chiefs.
No, of course,
but
yes.
Some must have been not so important, because stone spheres, a lot of people don't realize, because they're not usually photographed, is they're as small as golf balls, and they're as big as 64 tons as of yet. That's what was found in Bosnia.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're not all round. They look round.
Wow. Let's see. What is Chris saying too? Yes, and the ones that remain underground were all points in time, all aligned with Deneb. Deneb, is that right? Then they were buried and built new ones on top. Oh, I don't know if she was having a conversation with someone else. So Enzo's saying like a shock absorber.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, interesting. That is fascinating.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. There's other metamaterials, because soil itself, depending on how you sift it, think like sifting, just if you had, you were going to make a cake or something, sometimes some of the flour is meant to be sifted and fluffed. Think of the ground itself having what's called, the science is called seismic metamaterials. So they could be nanostructures. They could be literally you'd have to look at them under a microscope. They would be the same size as something that would go in a cell phone or smaller, or they could be objects, and they could have shapes, and they could be like giant building blocks or Legos or capsellas, or for that to date me, but they could be of all sorts of different shapes. And when you set them under a building, this is a modern science used to keep skyscrapers from becoming danger noodles.
Interesting. Danger noodles. That's amazing. That's a good term. I like it. Angels wants to know if you've looked into Atlantis.
Yeah. All right, man. I feel like it goes in ebb and flow on this one.
Yeah.
So here's the short. I have to admit, I'm very impressed with Jimmy from Bright Insight. He did a 2-part documentary on the recot structure, the Eye of Africa, and he includes a map of what the Greeks knew of the ancient world. And by rings alone, the city, if we're referring to, so a lot of people who get into this subject, they have various levels of knowledge. So when you hear about Atlantis, it sounds super intriguing, a city. But the description of Atlantis was described by a Solon the Greek who had gone to Egypt, and he was told about 10 cities. And so it wasn't just one city, Atlanteans, Atlantis, it refers to a culture. And so a lot of people want to say, well, that advanced culture you're referring to is something we have in a written record from Sumeria, or from, oh no, they're really referring to the Anunnaki. It's not. This is yes. What I think of the story of Atlantis is the description of the one city appears to be identical to the Eye of Africa, and there is seismic, possibly hydrostatic plate shifting. So you have water under the. Basically, there's an explanation to say why Lake Titicaca is way high with seawater, and why the Eye of Africa went where it did, and why there's a city off of Cuba that's 2,300 feet deep that could have been above water no less than 50,000 years ago. And when you look at all of it together, I think that there's a story that says, hey, there's a lot of embellishments in any culture. And I think that the one sliver of truth we can take out of the Atlantean story is that pre-biblical flood, pre-Younger Dryas, 12,600 plus years ago, there was another disaster 75,000 years ago, and this one was truly epic. And so for everyone to get an idea, it was Mount Toba, which is a super volcano, goes off, and based on genetic, and again, we do not have a complete fossil record, so everything I'm saying is up for change. But what we know to today in general is that Mount Toba goes off, and they always describe it mathematically as we were down to like 2 to 6,000 or 26,000. So breeding pairs. So 4 to 12,000 people to 52,000 people were left on the planet. We also know from the genetic record that Denisovan, Neanderthal, and humans all bred together over 50,000 years ago. And we have a city off of Cuba, that's just one example, that should, have been above water at, way earlier than 50,000 years ago. So then let's just say there was an advanced human race and they were caught with their pants down, or some of them got underground. And obviously the dwellers on the planet that survived from 75,000 years ago to the Younger Dryas, they did it, by surviving together in groups, apparently, where some of them were breeding together. And then eventually, what if the story that Solon received from the Egyptians, which was many years never met Plato, right? So we have our story of Atlantis that he said he gets from Solon. And what if what we're really seeing in the sliver of that truth is that very advanced humans from the culture that built megalittically survived and decided, you know what, the earth is pretty messed up. We have the story of Veracocha and all these guys with man satchels going around teaching tribes and peoples how to farm, how to write, basically call it early Peace Corps from very advanced humans that may have lived in, maybe it was just allegorical, like 10 cities called Atlanteans. But what if in reality, what if every culture around the world, because megalithic construction is identical all over around the world, may have been different people, may have been the same technologies, but different people, or it could have been a single unified global society. Because just because people drink Coca-Cola in Africa doesn't mean they're the same people as people who drink Coca-Cola in America or whatever. It's the reality is that we have terra preta, we have megalithic construction, but what we could be seeing is the remnant societies that recovered from some disaster 75,000 years ago, and then the Younger Dryas happens, and that's awful, and we have more flooding, fall down flooding, and then here we are about 10,000 BC, and just past Younger Dryas or before this other cosmic event or natural disaster or whatever it is. And those advanced humans had come out of that disaster 75,000 years earlier. Well, at the time it would have been what, 62,000 years earlier. And they had rebuilt not too far from all these damaged primitive societies, and they were trying to help them out. And what if what we're really, I'm just throwing it out there and explaining it and answering the question, which is just that the Atlanteans may represent the last time us low functioning, safe moded humans who survived on our own on the surface and were left for dead, were witnessing advanced humans who were trying to help us out, who had left us alone and had left us to fend for ourselves, but had chosen to set cities or bases up near enough to our primitive world that there were stories about them.
Yes. So those would be what we would like now kind of the ancient alien theory, the gods of old, which were aliens, but were actually just these leftover Atlanteans. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and I think Atlantean is just a Greek, Roman, or just it's a Western idea of advanced ancient culture, that there was advanced ancient people. It's not about them being, it's not that we're not alone in the universe and that there's not space traveling anthropologists. I'm sure there are, but you first have to start with all the advanced indications, literally within your own genetic memories, your own hunches, your own special abilities that individually people have, like, lucid dreaming, synesthesias. There are too many biotechnologies. There's too many systems that as we explore them in vibrational medicine, where we see, in quotes, it appears that biological 1 and 0 switching, as if programmable genetics is going on. I mean, there's lots of examples of observational standard academic evidence that biological systems we call natural to these ancient structures were part of a much more advanced human society. And they may not have all gotten along. I mean, there's the only thing that comes from this research is more questions. I wish I had more answers, but the reality is that it's just more answers to create better questions.
Yes. Seems to always work that way.
Ta-da.
Yeah. So I'm curious, and we do have a couple more questions that I definitely want to get to, but and I know there'll be more, but so do you think, or have you found in any of your research, like, is there any sort of genetic memory encoded within us where we can access, or at least try to access, some of the knowledge? Or I guess I'm thinking in terms of consciousness. Like, was there some? Do you think that they had a better understanding of consciousness, first of all, than we did? And secondly, is there a way to access that understanding? Is there some sort of, like, muscle memory within us?
I definitely think that's the best way to describe it, because it does seem like, hey, we're 10 to 15% conscious. Okay, well, when were we 30 or 40 or 50 or 80 or even 100%? And do we automatically assume it's godlike ability? But I think, and we've talked about this before. I called it banging on the blinky board. Someone bangs on the blinky board and there's a yellow light on the left and there's a green light or a red light on the right. And God forbid you pray on it and it's right even 50% of the time, which isn't actually right. But, suddenly you're worshiping, and then someone comes along in 1,000 years and says, why are you banging on the control panel of a 747? And by then you've burned the heretic, you've created a religion, you've misinterpreted why there's a summer equinox, solstice, fill in the blank, woo woo. Suddenly you're worshiping the technological, literally bits and pieces of a system that was highly conscious and highly complex. And you've now labeled it paranormal, or you've labeled it, you've given it either, if not a religion, you've given it a belief system, because it has to do, you've gotten as far as to understand it's some vibrational frequency and energy. It is. And we are our understanding of magnetism, our understanding of the complexities of just even something essential oil, just herbal medicine in itself, versus the practice of modern, medicine, right? And what we don't know is so crazy.
Yeah.
But but that ability to tap into that blinky board, and because of all of our family of origin stories, they're all different. So some of us, if you're raised Catholic, or if you're rebelling against the system and now you've gone Wiccan, or fill in the blank, or you've just developed your own philosophy, or you're Buddhist, or you're leaning to some other Eastern ideology. And this is me as a Westerner speaking.
Yeah.
I just hate that we can't meld the sides of the globe closer, because there seems to be pieces of all of this ancient technology, like feng shui. We have these we've mystified and deified technologies to the point where we don't see the technology. We're banging on a highly advanced piece of technology, or I think a good example, and I do think it's necessary. It's a double-edged sword. I'm about to say that for those that, like the ayahuasca, we recently, in the 60s, we developed acid. Not my thing. We've had people explore those methodologies to attach to that collective consciousness. But to answer the question, we know even in standard academic terms that there's a collective consciousness, that there is also, through Carillion photography, there is a magnetic field around each living human or just living creature and thing. And there is some data that suggests that what you conceive in your mind is not just held within the mind structure itself, that perhaps it's a system that's including your own magnetic field, which is also part of that collective human consciousness. And so I know we talked in the past about, I was Cleopatra. Some people will raise their hand and say, well, I think I was Bill, the Roman zoo poop scooper, but, people prefer to be Cleopatra. And,
It's a little more.
Right. And so the question is, in the ways that we use to adapt or adapt our consciousness level now to this ancient technology, I think unfortunately a lot of our solutions are banging on that blinky board, where we either not overdose, but we take an external drug, or we accidentally face death, oops, or both. And what happens is that we bang just enough, or parts of us, each of us, are, because of genetic memory, which we know we have, that we've proven it in a different subspecies now, that memories themselves, not just an instinct, but actual memories, can be passed down. So how much of that download, or that recall of Cleopatra or Bill the guy at the Roman zoo, is actually part of a collective consciousness that's actually holding every memory or every consciousness of every being that's ever lived on the planet? And we've already proven, and we started in 2008, we stored a 50,000 word book on a little bit of DNA. And we can now do, in fact, in the time that you and I have been talking the last few months, I believe it's closer to 3 terabytes now on a gram of DNA.
Wow.
3 terabytes of information. And that means that all of human knowledge can be stored in an elephant and a half. And those elephants and the other half, if he's alive, both still get to be elephants and hungry and just elephants. But you could store all of human knowledge and experience, not just as a historical record. But the question is, why do we see ghosts? Why do we astroplane and astro project? Why is it they're all treated as separate experiences? Or, when I meditate, or when I'm doing Reiki, or, you fill in the blank of a methodology that you're drawn to. Well, why are you drawn to it? And part of it could be your own genetic memory that is just manifesting because the random blinky board and the circumstances around your life and the soil you step and eat on all the above is causing a certain gene expression for you to tap your consciousness within, by the way, the available RAM. We're quickly developing enough people, I think, back on the planet to where it once was, that collective RAM is there in a way, not that we're that conscious to use it, but somehow there's enough of it all mixing together that, depending on your person out there's individual day, your ability to recall not only a past life, but maybe you're recalling someone else, literally that person recalling a fragment of a zip file that is Cleopatra, that is Bill the poop scooper. And it's
Yeah.
not that it was your life or your past life. It's you have the ability to download or access, and had the hyperbolic chambers still function, perhaps in case of maybe we didn't actually die. Let's throw that one out there for people. Perhaps in case of catastrophic failure, the window and sliver of truth in the world of reincarnation isn't that it's a great, beautiful thing. It's like you're a bad person, now you're a bug. And then you learn a bunch of things and you reach higher states. Well, what's true in that is, if everything on the planet is part of a biotechnical system, and if everything and everyone is every other person's backup, then if something catastrophic happened, some unavoidable cosmic meteor or something where the only way to recall an individual was to restore all the stored Carillion data files of that human being that was near grass, that was near a tree, that was in a soil, that was zapped into a billion or a stone sphere. And at any one point, you could literally recall that human. That's an idea. So reincarnation, after a period of mystification and all the lost technology, just becomes this wonderful, beautiful philosophy of be good, do unto others. And suddenly we have this concept of reincarnation, which is really just a fractional portion of potentially a technology that would easily be able to, rebuild a human.
Yeah, that's very cool. We were actually talking about this morning on my show, because I have my two haunted dolls back here, and we were
Yes.
talking about. I know, sorry, they creeping you out.
Brad Bro.
Every now and then I'll get those dolls are freaking me out in the chat. But that how how objects can become haunted. And I said, well, perhaps what if it is something along the lines of, say, like my microphone here, I use this microphone almost every day. I'm with this microphone. And if I touch this microphone, does my energy intermingle with the energy of the microphone? Because fundamentally everything around us is made of energy. And that's kind of what you were talking about. Is like, do we leave our fingerprints on things all around us, that especially the things that we're using all of the time and kind of interacting with? And does that have a little portion of us within it?
Yeah. And vice versa. If I'm, this was an example I thought of so many years ago. I'm going to out myself. I thought of this I'm just going to say this. Over 20 years ago, it gave me the idea because I'm a Tears for Fears fan. And
you and I are in the same age range, so you're not allowed to call yourself old.
She's lying. She's 32 and a half.
He's right. He's right. I am.
Yeah. That's how old we both are forever.
That's right.
So I'm a huge fan of Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
And how do you get some of this ethereal, how do you get this brain entrainment with some of, pick your favorite glass animals. Let's go more current. And it's a fall afternoon and the leaves are changing and you're walking down the street and there's a smell, there's a breeze. And although none of the circumstances around the experience of what inspired Roland Orzabal to write, Badman or just any Sowing the Seeds of Love, or let's just go Pools, Glass Animals, whatever. The point is, we hear music, and on one level, how much of what they experience that produces those frequencies and notes and that music in its arrangement is actually translated. And so part of the brain entrainment, and I like, some music can really get people, whether it's out of body or certain meditative state or just how it affects them, how much of that is related to what the person who composed it and wrote it and produced it is that totally random experiences actually being communicated verbatim. And then there's the physicality, like you're saying, of how much of my magnetic field is being written onto a plant or written just in the air, or my thoughts, how much of that is already being looked at by collective consciousness and how much of it is a part of it. I mean, one of the things to consider then is, does a surgeon in the past with frequency and energy, high technology, does a doctor as we know it today look more like a composer or conductor in the past?
Interesting. That's fascinating, Jared.
Huh?
I like it. I like it. All right. Poor Chris has been waiting on this. I've been making her wait for about 20 minutes on this question. This is my friend Chris, who loves ancient civilizations, and this is her favorite. And I've been making her wait. I'm sorry, Chris. I have questions for Jared too. Uh, all right. So she wants to know: have you studied Göbekli Tepe and other sites in Turkey? For
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
Derinkuyu. Is that how you pronounce that one? Derinkuyu?
I got invited. I did a conference just last year, and I was invited to go, and
Mm.
it just wasn't looking good.
Yeah.
Safety wise, things in Syria
Mm.
had heated up, and Göbekli Tepe is right on the border. And I mean, essentially, and I didn't really like how they described it to me. They said it was you could throw a hand grenade, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait. And there was a group that was supposed to go, and it was Jim Willis.
Mhm.
He and I were on the Forbidden Knowledge News conference, and we did a panel, him and I together, and he was invited to take over a group. And so I was really looking forward to seeing it in person. So I've only studied it from photography and Klaus Schmidt's work, and I've actually read Klaus's some of the published work I've read. And one thing that we all know, and I wrote about it in my book, I did write about Göbekli and the other 5 um, sites that are tepes that are all the same age range, and many of them larger than Göbekli Tepe. And I don't mean larger of what they've dug up, because what they've dug up is, well, currently, now they haven't done anything new, but currently, by new, I mean they're still at the 5%. They've dug up approximately 5% of what they think are well over another 100 something circles. And again, it appears to be different quality of building techniques. But anyway, they've only done seismic work to establish that fact. So one of the things that I think is inherently, to point out with Göbekli is that, again, they originally, when I read about it, when I was writing, they said it was at a minimum 12 to 18,000 years old. And for a while, and this is my rule now for everyone on the internet, at least the internet, when you look up a book or you look up some scientific paper, whatever you look up, if it looks really interesting to you, do a screenshot, because for the first 9 months of me doing research, I could Google, or I could internet search in any capacity about Göbekli Tepe, and what would come up is, well, we're sure it's at least 12 or 18,000 years old, but it could be 23 to 28,000 years old, maybe even older. And there was carbon dating from the site of organics that they found in situ that said, hey, Göbekli Tepe could be over 30,000 years old. Now that rings a bell for me, because that's one of the numbers about the Sphinx and things in Egypt, in northern Egypt. It rings a bell with a bunch of other sites. The site I was at in Texas here today, the Galt Archaeological Site, is at least 20,000 years old. And that's in Texas, and it's probably one of the most important archaeological sites in North America, let alone the world, yet not known here. And Göbekli, and Göbekli represents not, again, we find something, there's a bunch of firsts about it. Oh, it was the first. Well, it was the first because you didn't know it was there and you found it. So, but you only have 5% of it dug up, and there's 6 other sites like it. So why don't we just keep digging? And we have a bright new rising sun in the archaeological weapons category, and it's called nuclear DNA testing, sedimentary nuclear DNA testing. And that means that they can literally take a scoop of sand, and out of it they can find that, oh, this is the dust, this is the nuclear DNA remnants of 150 animals and 55 different plants. And they can literally, now we're getting to the point where, like LiDAR's gone from the size of a jumbo jet to a hockey puck on the bottom of a drone. I mean, crazy stuff, right? So, but if there's anything specifically you want to talk about Göbekli, like the jumps to conclusions on the star alignments of the animals, the man satchels on the pillars, the fact that the pillars and the rubble between them, it already looks like the site's been used by multiple generations for thousands of years of different groups, because I don't think people who can make 25 or 35 foot pillars would river rock between them to finish off the structures. I think
Yeah.
that's a different culture, but they're not there yet. So there's not too much else that I could think of unless you got something else.
She does have a follow-up. She says,
All
if
right.
yes, then I have a follow-up. Do you think it's possible that the sign on pillar 18 could be the sign of the quantum realm, since you get both?
Well, I will tell you this in my new book. On the back of the moai of Easter Island, the crane, the birds that are on the pillars, they match the same style as the Easter Island moais. In fact,
Really?
I took photos. Fortunately, hi Fiona, my agent in London, she went to the British Museum and took the photos for me. So photo
Mm,
credits to Fiona. And
nice.
there are animal pictographs on those columns
Mhm.
that it just blows my mind when I sit here and actually think about it for a second, because I'm like running with all these um, all the information. But yeah, so
Mhm.
Easter Island has, and there are other places too. So we're starting to see kind of like a world connection of these sites. And
Mm,
I think as far as realms go, we need to start with what how many layers back do we peel the onion to get to a single core um you know worldwide global pyramid megalithic keystone building stone sphere making terra preta making society.
yeah.
And where do we say, okay, well, there was this primitive group over here and there was a primitive group over here, and they were, like we have 150 tribes today, give or take, that we know of. And
Mhm.
now we just found out that there might still be pygmies alive. uh,
Really?
yeah,
Didn't
not
hear
not
that.
like the ones that we know of in Africa currently, but another hobbit, a hobbit, not an actual African pygmy, but a
Yeah.
hobbit like person, the kind of the
Really?
yeah, for
Like,
real. They think they still might be alive, and I'm not. Man, I just read the article, and it wasn't out there. It was not clickbait.
huh.
Wasn't even going to bring it up because I just can't recall it right now. I was so excited about this other thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if we can jump to gates, portals, or it's not that those aren't possibilities, especially with the idea that if we were already advanced, we've probably already
Mhm.
left the planet. Or did we start here? Did we start in Mars? Or is it
Mm,
vice versa? Or,
yeah.
are the survivors on the planet, there's a lot of, if we already went to the moon, the argument
Mhm.
is, well, we've already put ancient satellites and ancient technology off world or sent it off into
Mm,
space. So the reality is that I I don't think that what we're finding currently on, again, we only have 5% of it dug up, and what we're looking
yeah.
at is primitive work. We're not
Mm,
looking at, like, hey, we're really advanced portal moving humans. Hey, could you two rock bangers take a break between the mastodon you just killed and the turtle soup you're making? And could you throw this symbol so that we can talk about it later?
yeah.
It's just not the same group
Mm,
working with the columns and what they were doing in the
mm,
state that we found them. I
mhm,
think they're just mimicking and also remembering, like in textiles and things we've learned about cymatic frequencies like ohm. I think that there's
mhm,
primitive and survivors that forgot the images and like the cymatic patterns they were weaving into clothing. I think maybe, if anything, if you think it looks similar to something else that's ancient that you might relate to a portal,
mhm.
it would be, I think, may have been lost in religion or
Mm, yeah.
mysticism, and it was just put out there because they knew it was important.
Mm, yeah.
I don't think the people who did that work they weren't dumb. I mean,
Right.
that's the other thing. It's like I don't think these people were stupid at all. It's just that
Mm,
we have a lot of dynastic peoples that came in on ruined cities, including the Egyptians, including the Greeks, and it appears that these are squatter cultures that have
yeah.
adapted the ruined remnants. You could almost call them the first archaeologists, that they came in on constructions that were already there, and they built their languages and or at least it took influences from the remnants of the architectures that they found and the hieroglyphs that they found, and they built a society that we recognize as these. Well, this is a complete history. This is all who was there, and if that was true, we went to found Göbekli Tepe, and we wouldn't be finding, sites all over North and South America and everywhere in the world that show our history is not what anyone's been taught in kindergarten to 12th grade, and it's really not what you're barely accurately being fed in college if you go.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, though, especially like we were talking about, like calling them like squatter cultures. That makes sense because if we even just look at Egyptian history, ancient Egyptian history, I mean, they were masters at this, right? Of reusing, especially when a new pharaoh came along. It was like, okay, let's take down a lot of the things that pharaoh did, and we're going to put up our own now. But they're going to still, use the same materials. They did it within their own time frame.
So Ramsey built a lot of statues, or he found a lot of statues.
Yeah,
both. More likely both.
Yeah.
Put my name on that one, yo.
Yep, absolutely. Poor Hepset. I can never say her name right. Hepset. She kind of got the shaft, literally.
Yep.
Her stuff got taken down.
We're always kicking out pyramids now. They're really easy to build. So how about a couple 1,200-ton statues? Yeah. Right. Easy. Let's just do that. Put your mind to it. You've got enough time.
10-story obelisk out of one piece of rock.
Yeah, it's always racked up too. We have plenty of time and lots of people, and they're really good with sandpaper.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
okay.
Easy.
That's not what the advanced stonemason says, but okay.
Right.
Oh, the hobbits might be from Indonesia, Kelly Lewis.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I was going to ask. And then I think, or was it Enzo found a link? I don't know if it would tell you just from the link itself, but if I can find it, I'll put it back up there. Oh, here it is right here. Live Science, Homo florensis.
Thank you, everyone listening. That might be it.
Okay, cool.
That might be it. And I was just reading it, and I'm like, for all the things we don't get right, it's like, seriously, there's literally Hobbit people still. We go, isn't it weird? Like a few months ago, and I'm hot in the middle of trying to add on to the book and work on a second documentary, and we find 2 different kinds of new human species in Israel, 2 different kinds, not one. And they're like days apart in announcing their discoveries. And then we got dragon/Peking man. So now we have 3 different types of humans that we didn't know. And it's going to get really hard with books like, Forbidden Archaeology, which again, Michael Cremo is not making up a bunch of finds to justify a point. He's simply revisiting actual academic finds of paleoanthropologists that show humans where they're not supposed to be. And it shows Australopithecus and the different hominids living not, continuously in the chart, but actually side by side. And you have the Paracus, you have definitely cranial deformation, but then you have people that very much appear to have been born that way, and yet again, no genetic testing there. Guess we can't go down the conspiracy wagon right now, but when you
always go down the conspiracy
wagon.
Oh yeah,
you heard her. What do you want to do, Lynn? It's the possessed dolls talking now.
That's right. Oh my god. Do you know what this is? I'm changing the subject. What's everyone think of the Voynich manuscript? I don't know what that is. Do you?
The Voynich. It's so forever it was. They're trying to decode it. It was written in a code and it hadn't been decrypted. Eric von Daniken has written on it a few times. Well, lots of people have written on it, and so I think. Maybe it wasn't Live Science. Maybe it was Science Daily. There was a paper on it. Yes, possessed dolls are taking over. They're starting to braid Lynn's hair. It's true.
That's right. You see me doing this. That's what's happening.
Listen, just you can hear the possession in the background. Oh, my little sixpence.
You hear little footprints running around behind me.
Yeah. So the Voynich, they think it's actually has to do with medicinal. Something to do with flower recipes or essential oils or for a while I think they thought it was like drugs, but I think someone they ran it through some decoder. I again, forever it was not decoded, but I don't think, at least from where we're getting publicly, it's not as interesting as we were hoping. But I used to code stuff up like that when I was in 8th grade. I thought
Yeah.
no one will decode it. Like, what if it's just a manuscript from a really bored monk who made up his own language?
Could be.
I mean,
You never know.
I don't want to be a joy kill on this thing, but
Right.
seriously, what if it's just, I don't want to copy another biblical page. I'm going to make up my own language and draw cool flowers.
It's just a doodle. It's a doodle that we're spending like hours and hours on.
Yeah. Someone's going to put this on a tattoo on their arm in the future.
Yes. And someone sees it like, man, that would make a good tattoo.
Yeah.
He's like, yes. In the collective consciousness, that monk is cheering. Yes.
Yeah. Friar Bob, what are you drawing? Something of serious biblical literary significance.
Biblical. Biblical, don't worry.
If I could have Org tap this out on my shoulder, I'd be the badass at the saloon. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so I know I told you we were only going to go an hour, so I want to like make sure that unless you can go, I can go a little longer if you do, because there are a couple more.
Oh no, I can.
Or...
Yeah, I can. Okay. I can go. I ironically, I originally thought that we were down for 90. So
okay.
And I don't have anything. Really, it's been a while. We haven't been able to catch up for a while. You've been in transition.
I know. Well, you have been a busy guy. And actually, yeah, I've been actually a little crazy too, but we will make sure that doesn't happen again. But we do have some questions too. Yeah, so let me see. Let's see. Let me get back to them. They wanted to know, a couple people wanted to know about was it the Paracas giants? I think. Was that a thing?
I don't know if they were, so they were taller than us.
Okay.
Some of the skeletons and their cranial capacity was like, I think it was 2.5 times. I mean,
Are these the ones with the like elongated skulls? Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Different suture lines, different arterial dissections. And again, there hasn't been one multi-billion-dollar endowed institution to give us the genetic history on them. Find that fascinating that they have. I had the wonderful opportunity to spend an evening with Nassim Harriman, who did some of the tissue sampling out of one of the Paracas skulls mummy. It was a mummy, and he told me that there was soft tissue, and this mummy was over 3,000 years old. And he's like, there shouldn't be any soft tissue. And so on one hand, I think that has to me, says something about the durability of that cellular system. Also, one could argue, oh, well, it's just random and it's the weird dryness of Paracas, Peru. And, that's where the Nazca lines are and everything. But he was part of the group that was trying to do the sampling genetic testing on the Paracas to determine, there's been some testing to say, okay, well, the Paracas, the elongated skull people are related to people in Eurasia near the Crimea. So there's a concept that, definitely a global, there's elongated skulls found all over, but I'm talking about natural elongated skulls, not mimic cultures, these squatter cultures that saw someone with a really cool head and they thought we can do that. I got 2 kids.
Wrap them up, bind their head.
Yep.
It's a great idea.
That's what the dolls are telling you to do. We're going to include them in every conversation now.
I know, right? There they are. They're like, hey, Jared. Hello.
For everyone watching, I have to look over here to see the dolls. Not actually looking at the dolls. Can't see.
They just think you're looking away like the rest of them do. They're just like,
I'm just doing the weather report, and over here it's going to be sunny. But if I want to see Lynn laughing right now, I have to do this. Now I can see her laughing. Hands are up.
Yep.
I can kind of see it out of the corner of my eye. So there's some movie magic for everyone.
That's right. You're good. You're good, my friend. Let's see. YJ Overlander has a question for you too. In all your work and study, what's the biggest, most burning question that's arisen and yet to be answered in relation to it all? It's just a little question for you.
I think it, my next work, my next documentary is actually called, well, the last one's called TerraCore.
Mhm.
Well, there's a subtitle, but my next one's on really it's on foundations, and I think I really need to visually illustrate in detail one of the greatest mysteries that is irrefutable and defining, is the soil itself, not just because it's found on every continent, but I very much think that the arguments. So we have some groups in Russia, and I say Russia because there's a lot of teams that they're just not pairing East and West well, and we have a lot of teams that aren't communicating. Like, you might catch something on YouTube or on online, like, hey, this group of scientists figured this out, and Dr. Joseph Davidovitz, who came up with, he is literally the father of geopolymers, and he had a theory about the geopolymers, that patching geopolymer, like concrete, basically a kind of concrete, different patching on the pyramids that, like the Great Pyramid, that appear to be maybe not the whole pyramid. The original idea was maybe that it was poured, but there are material sciences that include geopolymers or concretes. And, we touched on stone spheres, but I think it all relates to the debate of, well, any Incan person and Maya, Olmec, Toltec, Egyptian could have made a keystone cut and thought of polygonal construction. And it really just took a bunch of slimy trees, or, like they took the bark off and oiled up a bunch of blocks. And, I don't think 1,200-ton blocks work like that. I think they crush the wood. But I think one of the things that's not very sexy and interesting in soil is, as a period historical remodeler, what popped out right away, and this isn't going to ruin it if still everybody out there go watch TerraCore. The plugging and analysis of the foundational material itself. It doesn't have gold, it doesn't have mummies, but I think that what we're going to find is that the ancient largest buildings on the planet
Mhm.
and the soil as you move from under them and out are going to show signs of construction methods that include seismic metamaterials from the nano size to maybe large stone spheres that helped manage their connection to other types of engineered soils.
Hmm.
That is going to help point and unlock, like, if our history is a search and rescue and not a search and recovery, the point is, I think that the biotechnical and the external technical really were connected. So the faster we can get more people to not believe it, but to see wherever the truth leads us, the faster I think we can recover technologies that keep us healthier, get us more connected back to the actual planet, not just in a, like, literally connected, but not in a, well, I just believe way. And there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. But like, whoa, actually, no, we really can connect to all this, and we really can connect to each other. And we really do have these biotechnical abilities to sit in each other's third eye, or to project, there's those questions. To get them answered, I think the biggest thing is to start with something we thought was nothing: the composition of the soil around and under and in and moving out from megalithic structures. And anywhere we find stone spheres,
Mhm.
I think we're going to find these metamaterials, and we're going to find the dusted remnants, until we have a really, really fast processing quantum computer that can handle sedimentary DNA evidence,
Mhm.
literally like gold mines, where, we're, or like gold rush, where they pick up a bunch of dirt and they dump it on a machine and it goes down. And until we can compute every sedimentary remain by the ton, then I think this is our fastest way to getting us all on board to a larger global snapshot of what we once were.
Do you think that there is, so like, because I know in a lot of different communities, certainly sometimes in the UFO community and the paranormal community, this is an issue that I hear people talking about, which is kind of what you were saying, is that there's an issue with the interconnectivity of the researchers, that the researchers aren't necessarily, coming together and really trying to look at this together. Is that an issue that you find goes on in this realm as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard on one hand, one of my best friends is an archaeologist.
Hmm.
It's hard, you're in a system of a lot of academic hubris. You have a university system pumping people out to be professors, not be researchers. Today, while I was at the Galt site, it was pointed out that in field research, there's about 12,000 active archaeologists. They're doing field work and they're zeroing in on each of the things they're specializing in. And they can tell you things about, whether it's a piece of flint or whatever their expertise is in pottery or building construction. They know a lot about very myopic points, and they're important and invaluable for us to not have those people out, but giving them the resources to do their work and enrolling more people and money. It's so frequent that archaeology is left to, well, what's the point? We figured it all out, or we figured out enough. And it's not true, because we wouldn't otherwise have the paranormal and these other esoteric fields where somehow, and we can't have 27,000 different religions and meditative techniques. We all seem to be, again, we all have a family of origin. We all have this history where we're like, well, that's how I relate to the system. And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's keep questioning and keep trying out not just another modality. It's like, well, now I'm a red shirt, I was a blue shirt. No, we're all banging on the blinky board. And we know that we have collective memories, collective consciousness. We have an aurora that is real. All living entities do. Inanimate objects, there are magnetic fields, but we're not relating them in their highest and best function yet or now. So how we get there is not only, being open to, specific systems, but also just being ready to question, I might know a truth, but is it a truth that's a feeling, or is it a truth on a fact? And they are different. And it's just important to not worry about or to prove someone right or wrong about their specific, the way they're going at it. It's just I'm encouraging people to just be open to piecing difference. Like on one hand, they might have a paranormal experience. On the other hand, they might have a religious experience. On the other hand, they're like, no, I can consciously, they might have an ability where, they can lucid dream, or they can really, there are technologies that I think are awake in one person, not in another, or some combo of that. And just being open to the idea that documenting that for yourself and continuing to question and practice and try new things is, I think, one of the only ways to really get somewhere. But, if you read nothing but Casey and stick with records of the last 6,000 years and again, okay. So on one hand, there's genetic memory and there's collective consciousness, but we do have people talking like Akashic. Anyone who says, well, the Holy Spirit told me, or God came to me in a dream, you can't argue with that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a problem with, well, I have a whole history of a group of people. Well, where's the history? Well, they were in my dreams. Well, I can't argue with you on that. And if it's true to you, that's fine. But, and it could be you interpreting, again, you may have been downloaded a sliver of something that actually has some vein of truth. But then I just think it's important to not get stuck on, just, it's important for us to try to manage what we're finding in the ground
Yeah.
against the fact that we're collectively, well, we have different abilities that seem to be overlapping with each other. And there's all this really advanced, crazy old, one of the things we haven't even had time on is there are other indications of geopolymers and technologies in the ground that just don't line up with today's understandings of ancient. I'm not talking like the Baghdad batteries, where
Mhm.
simple batteries were being used for plating 2.5, 3,000 years ago around a culture in Baghdad that, we're not just talking like make shiny metal plates, but
Mhm.
I mean, there was metal plate. For instance, there was metal plating going on in these fallen times as Solon the Greek, who was learning about Atlantis, was being told that they were once very advanced and they come from a very advanced old people, but now they are young because they don't remember and they have amnesia. And at the same time, there's metal plating that's been found that dates to that 2.5, 3,500 year ago range that has nano material coating that's thinner than anything that's actually in the technology of our cell phones. It's
Interesting.
thinner,
Wow.
and that's standard academic research.
Hmm.
And so, is that a technology that they developed by accident through elixir and alchemy, or is that a technology that comes from a more fallen time? And then it goes up against math, like the Babylonian Plimpton. We've talked about all this, so I won't digress further. Other than we must have more questions, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, well, Chris asked a good one, and I wanted to get into this too to make sure we have time to do it. Jared, you mentioned earlier about a site in Texas that was
Yeah.
20,000 years old. Where? How? What? I'm in Texas. I did her
Yes, so
reflection
it's the
for you too.
Galt, and really they're wonderful people. This is, it's so funny. Today I learned that they've actually had um they've actually had politicians. They've had
Mhm.
a lot of people come to the site, but it's a site north of Austin, about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Um, it's open to the public. They do have public tour days. They have scheduled, you can call and schedule a tour. You need 10 people or more. It's $10 a head.
Mhm.
Worth every penny. Uh, there's a number of things that make this site unique. One, in North America, there's 19 mastodon kill sites. Mastodons, not
Really?
woolly mammoths.
Wow.
Um, this is one of them.
Hmm.
There was a young mastodon, skull, head,
Mhm.
body, and not only did they find the skull, and sometimes you can find indications that a skull, that basically bones have been cut. You can see the cut marks on them.
Mhm.
They literally found the skull with all the stone tools around it.
Wow.
And that's significant because there's only 19 of them in North America.
Hmm.
There are 19 mastodons found that were being worked on by human hands. And this site, um, as one of the co-founders toured us today, they found a stone floor that, based on, again, they've used every kind of dating technique.
Mhm.
It's at least 15,000 years ago. So pre-Younger Dryas,
Hmm.
pre-biblical flood, for everyone
Wow.
thinking on that. Um, they know from they've collected in less than 30 years, they've collected 2.6 million artifacts.
Wow.
And they've only dug up 3% of the site. And when you're there and you're walking it, um, every square inch where you're walking, our group, he's like, a lot of people have laughed at me. He's one of 3 people in the world that sets up large archaeological finds, digs, when
Mhm.
there's going to be a dig. He's excavated everywhere from the Middle East to Guatemalan Mayan cities. And here we are at this site, which was a pay to dig site in 1906. Well, it was
Hmm.
founded in 1906 and then it became a pay to dig site. So you could
Wow.
go for $5 and 10 and eventually 25. You could pay to just dig holes and find stuff. Well,
That's
everybody
great.
went down and found stone sphere. They well, not sphere. They found points, arrowheads,
Mhm.
and it was actually spearheads. They think the bigger ones were for arrows. They were for spears
Wow.
or lances.
Hmm.
Longer story, but they never dug lower. And so you have this, what's called Clovis, which is literally, there is no Clovis. And he kind of lost his, it was really fun today. He lost his mind a little bit. But this site is so important to not just America, but the story you're told about the Bering, the land sea bridge,
Mhm.
that if you have people here 20,000 years ago, and again, Michael Cremo, way at Laco, Mexico, was originally dated in the 60s to 275,000 to 350,000 years. And now the date's looking closer to 3 to 500,000.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, right. Not in our narrative. And
Yeah.
there are so many questions that go pre-Spanish, pre-apocalypto movie type stuff. And
Mm.
this site, Galt, it's not very far from some other cities. It's took me 2 hours and 40 minutes from north of Dallas
Mhm.
today to get down. Not what I prefer. I had another group of friends coming from Austin, so there was supposed to be 8 of us. There were 7. We paid the full for 10. Had a wonderful time, but I highly recommend this to all of you to go. There's some great videos on it. I'll get you a link you could post up.
Yeah.
That would give people a bit of an overview, but I think it's incredibly important that this Galt site is more well known around the world than it is in America.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, why haven't we heard about this? I've never heard about it.
Doesn't fit the narrative.
Huh.
You can't have, and mind you, this is a flint factory. This is a site that was well settled. It had freshwater springs. It's in a valley. It wasn't like you went there and there were just nomadic people. I mean, people have been living there for 20,000 years plus. And that's just as far as they've gotten. And again, they've only done 3% of the site, but it takes money. It's part of an archaeological, it's in a nonprofit now.
Mhm.
So it's part of, but what's crazy is one of the founders of the Galt archaeological site of where it is today, because the land was allowed to be sold from the owner to the archaeologist that co-founded the Galt Archaeological uh, Association, and then one of those archaeologists actually had to privately, on his own, with no help from the state, flip the bill to buy it because the state wouldn't preserve it, even though the Clovis layer of the same types of tools that are found anywhere around in North America. So it's the description they gave today is like, well, someone in China can have an iPhone and you can have an iPhone, but you're not the same culture. And then you call them the iPhone culture. And it's like, so we have the same technology all across the country, from the coast, Canada, and all the way down here. The Galt site is also at that layer. It is the largest Clovis site in
Hmm.
North America, hands
Wow.
down.
Huh.
So there's a lot going on at this site, whether they have stuff going on right up through Native Americans that we know of today. 2 burials were found on the site, and there's huge ancient trash mounds that could all be
Mm.
excavated. And in fact, there's layers of terra preta, not the
Mhm.
same kind that's in South America, but it's literally, this area of Texas is just supposed to be clay, but
Mm.
based on description, it literally, it's animal fat and compost from human
Mm.
existence. And that's what created the soil
Hmm.
for large, vast swaths of it. And so and that's dating back 20,000 years. There's been OSL dating, there's been carbon 14 dating, you name the kind of dating, it's been done. And
Wow.
it's one of the most well documented. In fact, it's considered one of the top 5 most accurately dated sites in the world.
Wow.
And so this is, I know, right? You can't believe and so funny because the group that went through with me, I set it up and they had never heard of it. And some of them work within like 10 miles of it.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah, Chris says she lives north of Dallas. She's never heard of it.
Yeah, and
So
you know
crazy.
what? Just if you are up for it, here's what I would tell you. And I know they have 150 volunteers coming out Saturday and I think
Mhm.
Sunday because, well, it's an annual cleanup, but this year is pretty bad because there was a tornado, I guess, a couple of weeks ago,
Mhm.
and it started in the valley right at the Galt site, and it took deciduous trees. This valley, it's crazy because kind of classic Texas driving, and then
Mhm.
you take the exit to go to the Galt site, and you drive about 11 miles, and it's near Florence. Um, but suddenly I saw deciduous trees that look like broccoli. I mean, like really big trees that should have been, 100 feet tall,
Yeah.
big oaks uh, or maples, and mostly oaks, but they look like broccoli. And I'm like, are those desert trees? I've been other
Mm.
places in the country, or, I've been to a Joshua tree, and I'm like, what am I looking at? And then I kept seeing all these platforms that I thought were houses, but there were no houses. And
Hmm.
apparently, for like 7 miles 2 weeks ago, a tornado took out every single house
Oh my gosh.
and tore up the trees. And they are cleaning at the Galt site this weekend. And there's at least 150 volunteers coming out to
Wow.
be fed and then to help chop up destroyed trees and
Wow.
clean up debris. And literally everywhere you walk, there's arrowheads, there's
That's
flint
so
tools.
crazy.
It's nothing but archaeological garbage 20,000 plus years from the top to the bottom. It's crazy. This
That's
site is
insane.
nuts. And it's also, don't go expecting to see a pyramid or a structure.
Mhm.
This is an actual active ongoing site that is covering well past the history that, like they said today, you're given 200 years of history and the first 50 years of it is crap. They totally made it
Mhm.
up. But yeah. So what do we got next? Did I miss
Let's
a
see.
question?
Jared's loving it. Is there any connection to the sites with this soil he's been talking about and pyramid type structures being in the same area?
No, because he's working with people from Harvard, uh, name the university. He seems to be connected with everyone. The Galt site, um, from what they're working on, I mean, it's mostly been like the preservation of just the story on preserving the mastodon head. It was
Mm.
they had kind of created a little pavement area near a spring, and whoever was carving up the mastodon and the head, um, they left all the stone tools and everything, but the head itself was there, but it was like gelatinous,
Ooh.
like, so it wasn't bone, it wasn't flesh, but it was like it hadn't hardened yet. Apparently, the soil in this area loves to eat organics, so it's
Mm.
really hard in this part of Texas. Once it gets underground, it's really hard if it's an organic of any kind for it to stay preserved, at least outside of nuclear, sedimentary DNA testing.
Mhm.
So there's no pyramids in the area, although I didn't specifically ask if there was any shell mounds
Mm.
or shell culture that, those pyramids can be, I mean, they're huge. I mean, they're just huge. 10, 12 stories to multi football fields in length. I mean,
Wow.
that's an odd thing, those shell mounds, but the site itself,
Mhm.
and the terra preta itself, it's biochar, so you're getting remnants of um, rendering for food and renderings of animals, and then you have the animal fats, you have the other human composting stuff. All of that ultimately formed a vast complex soil system that's in the area that is not natural. It is not just, it's the woods, no, it's definitely artificial, but it's not like the terra preta in Brazil or in North Africa or the southern Sudan. It's not the same thing. But
Mm.
again, they've only figured out to 20,000 years, and on one hand it's like they're looking for other sites to dig at. um, the kind of scaling that one of the main founders is used to, is setting up large operations. And the idea would be is to connect this site, because it was part of a trade route, they said, that went into Mesoamerica and went as far north as, from what they can tell so far, they're saying that this Galt site was occupied in part of a trade route that went into Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I definitely think they do have public tour dates. Plan a trip. It's worth it. There's lots of cool stuff around it. It's cheap to go there. The country is beautiful. By the way, you're right across from literally 8. I drove by, at least on my side of the freeway, besides the destroyed, evaporated homes, there was 5 rock quarries. So you're right by some really big limestone rock quarries. And I find that fascinating, like what was the geological activity of cultures, 20,000 years ago, let alone Younger Dryas, let alone, 30, 40, 50, 80,000 years ago.
Yeah. Interesting. So this might play into that. Ufologists said one might ask why and how there would ever be so many arrowheads in one place. Do you think is this where they were making them, or is it?
Yes, it's a place of manufacture. It was a factory. So you have them literally producing, not just that, but all sorts of tools, scrapers for skins. So there was cutters. So it wasn't just for killing things. It was a little bit of everything, and you could trade. There was a huge trading culture. It's pretty fascinating to go and look at this. So it's not just arrowheads. I mean, you have recent histories, and then they get washouts down their creek bed, and stuff from other properties will either reveal, or other arrowheads will show up. It's really interesting. Some of the flooding can go just a few hours, and it can move 100-pound rocks.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
That much water that quick.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's
I
really
believe
neat.
that. I believe that.
Yep.
I lived in Saudi Arabia when I was a kid, and when it would rain, because it was so dry, and I know a lot of parts of Texas are like this too, it's just that it would flood instantaneously because the ground
it doesn't go in, right? Because it's already baked surface.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now I totally distracted myself and forgot what I was going to ask you.
Next question.
The pressure, Jared, the pressure.
Wait, did you have a question?
I had a question. Yeah, no, I had a question, and now
we were talking about it was the washout, the tornadoes, the
I remember. Yeah, it had nothing to do with any of that. The mastodon head. But that jogged my memory, so thank you. The mastodon head. You said the tools were left right next to it. That made me wonder, like, why? Why did it seem like it was just kind of abandoned?
What's really neat is he had a really cool explanation for that. He said they're so alive in the time period that these people were hunting this mastodon. The that bear. Okay, so there's a few things alive in America: the camel, the horse.
The camel, really?
Oh, the camel's from North America.
What? I didn't know that. Stop it.
Yep.
Stop messing with my head tonight, Jared. Okay.
This is not even the dolls talking yet.
Oh my God.
How now, brown camel? Yep. For everything you thought was true about the Middle East, the camel is from North America, USA. No, well,
that's right.
North America.
Of course it was.
So we had a few things here. Like I think there was a mini rhino. Well, anyway, we had a bear.
Yeah.
That was we never had buffalo, right? We had bison, and the bison that were alive at this. So we had mastodon, not woolly mammoth. We didn't have woolly mammoth down in Texas. This bear was so big. I think it stood 8 foot at the shoulders, and that was on all fours.
Oh my gosh.
Could run faster than us. It could climb better than us, and it could eat us like we were giant, as he put it, meat sticks.
Nice.
Yeah. And so this giant bear, which dwarfs the biggest Kodiak bear, would look very small compared to this bear.
That's crazy.
And mastodons weren't friendly. So apparently it's likely that the bear wouldn't, outside of working with a group, Probably stay away clear of the mastodons also.
Mm.
They're more stamp you out quickly
Yeah.
sort of group. So you had them, and there were saber-tooth. There were
Mm.
other apex predators that some of them could smell blood from 10 miles away. So let's just say you and your group who are living near the watering hole here, and you spot a young, not stamp you out, wandered mastodon that's at the watering hole. And you're like, we
Mhm.
could totally take this one. You take it, but how long do you have to cut it up before every other apex predator who smelled blood
Mm.
in 10 miles is headed for their own treats?
Oh my gosh.
So you better get in there with all your family in your family unit of likely, or your group of 16 to 20 max.
Mm-hmm.
Cut that bad boy up, get as much as you can carry, and get out of Dodge, because that carcass is drawing every apex predator probably in 10 miles.
Wow.
So that was why they cut them up fast and took off.
Gotcha. But then they wouldn't have come back to get the tools. I mean, this is like,
Apparently
it's
they
not like
did
they
not.
could go to
They
the store
left.
and buy some more tools.
They totally Monty Pythoned it and ran away.
It doesn't
Right.
make any sense. See, this is gonna knot my brain, Jared.
You're
I'm
welcome.
gonna be thinking about it. I'm gonna be texting you because it's your fault. I'm gonna text you in the middle of the night. Why? Why were the tools still there?
I'm going to be up. Yeah. So, this is exactly the bedtime story that you want to tell your kids.
Yeah, right. We're
And
meat
they
sticks
never
first
came
and foremost,
back.
so you know. They're giant bears that will bite your head off.
Yeah,
The mastodon
easily.
stomp you out.
There was no outrunning one of these things. They were huge. And he pointed out, that the bison back then, we're talking basically they were like longhorns, but they stood 16 feet at the shoulder. Like I
They're
don't.
big today. They're big.
No, they're huge.
Yeah,
Yes,
but I can't
Monty
imagine.
Python. Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, bison. I love animals. Bison. Even though the well, no, that's not true. When I was in Yellowstone with my family, there was one standing in the middle of the road, and that freaked me out. But there was a stuffed one in this hotel. I can't remember where we were. Probably in like Jackson Hole or something. The head alone, I didn't want to get anywhere near it. I was like, holy hugeness, Batman. That thing is gigantic. And
yeah.
I want nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Yeah.
They
No,
didn't
there's a
face it,
new
didn't do
natural
anything.
history museum in Minnesota, and I got to meet the model maker that made the model. I mean,
Mm,
it's life size,
yeah.
but he builds life size like dinosaurs and whatever. And I'm like, man, what a job. That's cool.
Right? I'm so excited. In like 3 weeks, and Chris is going to be there with me too. There's the UFO Disclosure Symposium in Vernal, Utah, and we're going.
All
And
right.
Dinosaur National Monument is right there. And oh, I
Yes.
can't wait. So excited.
That sounds awesome. What's,
Yes.
are you setting up a booth?
No, I'm going just as a spectator. Not
All
talking
right.
anything, just going to have fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself on the work mode. Like, doesn't everyone
Right.
out there want her to live podcast from there?
I will do that. Well, now I
Making you
have
work.
to. Thanks. No, I already
You're
said that I
welcome.
would.
Making you work on your trip.
I know, right? Again, you'll be getting texted. Hey, Jared, I'm going on. You want to come?
Oh, set myself up for that.
Sure
Yes.
did. Sure did. I
Okay.
got some questions. You know history. Here
Oh,
we go.
you know how many dinosaurs? There's a great YouTube with Jack Horner, the guy that they based Jurassic Park on. Where did all the baby dinosaurs go? It was a TED Talk he did. He's considered the greatest dinosaur hunter on the planet. Whatever he runs the one out in Montana.
Mm.
But what they figured out is the dinosaur morphology looks different between preteen, teen, and fully grown adult. And a lot of dinosaurs that have like these names for being a different species are really just the preteen, teen, pre-adult version of some of the dinosaurs we know.
Yes. Isn't there like the T-Rex controversy, whether it's like there was like a miniature version of the T-Rex and then the regular T-Rex, but then they were like, well, maybe it's just the juvenile. I can't remember what they called it now. So did they ever figure that out?
I don't know. The big thing is you have to cut them open to figure that out.
Mm.
You can't just like do morphology, which is, I mean, talking about that's like looking at the lumps and bumps on your head for information. I mean, you can't just stare at a skull and go, it's you can to a point,
Mm,
but then you really have to cut them open and really start looking at the cellular structure and well, what's left of if it's been petrified. But
yeah.
that's what Jack was able to do, and that's what. And this isn't ruining the TED Talk. I think in this particular case, I think it's a very informative TED Talk about how, of course, at his research facility, he can cut them open if he wants,
Of course.
and
Yes.
that's how you get the detailed bone information to say no, this is the same creature, it's just bigger or smaller.
Yeah. That's interesting. That makes sense. I like YJ Overlander's comment. They weren't T-Rex. It was their second cousin, the Wee Rex. Wee Rex.
Oh, that's
That's the T.
funny.
Yeah.
Megasaurus. I mean, how does the joke go? Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know the rating of our audience. I won't say the other two. All
Oh, you
right.
can say whatever you want.
Oh,
I'm not monetized, so you can say whatever you want.
all right. No, that's right. We'll keep it above the mic.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, well, we've already gone over our 90 minutes, so I know
Yeah.
everybody's going to boo me out of here, but we will have Jared back, everybody. Don't worry. Don't worry. He'll be live streaming with us from Vernal.
When is that?
That is the last weekend in May.
All right. I
Yeah,
will
so in like
be
3 weeks.
I think I'll still be in Texas, and then there'll be some more reporting from here. I'm hoping to do some more with the Galt site, and I look forward to being back on.
Yeah, I can't wait. I look forward to hearing all about it. It'll be so much fun. And your book comes out soon, so we'll make sure we get
So
you on
there's
then.
that.
You guys it'll be Jared all the time. It'll be great.
Well, you
Welcome
know
to
what?
the team, Jared, she says.
We could. Hi, Team Lynn and Possessed Dolls, everyone.
That's right.
And then we could just start. I really think you should redo your intro with the dolls out front. Or kind of let them do their thing. We could have a doll sub series where they have their own like 2-minute thing, like The Simpsons took off and the Tracy Ullman show kind of disappeared. It's like, what happened to Lynn? It's like, oh, the Possessed Dolls? That's where
It's
those
just
dolls
the
started.
dolls for like 2 minutes. I'd lose like everyone.
Yeah, but Lynn and Jared thought of it. So
That's true. We would enjoy it.
I'll be behind the scenes on that. But yeah, so maybe that's the deal. We really should be like, I should have you on also, and then we should go back and forth and just we should make this more consistent.
I like that idea. Yes. Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. They'll be thrilled because I know they've been enjoying this. I've been like watching you and watching them at the same time. And that when I first said it's been an hour, there was a bunch of like, no. So,
well, I will easily sit around for the bumper and we can work out details off air.
Yes. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's so let me put you backstage, but thank you. Oh, before we do that, let's tell everybody. So your links are in the description, but tell them again where they can find you, about your podcast and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So I co-host a couple shows, but for now just go notaliens.com. My site's being updated also. I do have a member area on Not Aliens that has some exclusive content. The book will be out in a couple months, and I'm on Not Aliens on YouTube, and TerraCore, the documentary I did just do. It's 38 minutes. It's on YouTube on Not Aliens.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jared. It's been great talking with you. It's been a few months, so it's nice to catch up. And
it feels like a few weeks, but
it's been a few weeks. Is that no? It's been longer than that, hasn't it? Since we last talked.
It's just time's going really fast, and
it is.
It's just crazy.
I know. I think it was like October was the last time we talked. Like did a show together.
Sorry.
It's now May. That's like 7 months.
My life has been very dynamic with a lot of moving parts.
You've got a lot going on. It's okay. I'll forgive you for that one. It's okay.
Oh, good. Well, you were the one upgrading your show process.
It's been busy. We've both been busy. We'll just say that. But we will make sure that it doesn't happen again. So thank you, Jared. It's always so much fun talking with you. And yeah, stick around and we'll figure that out behind the scenes. We'll make it happen for everybody. if you can. If not, we can always talk later too.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I will wait.
All right. Thanks, Jared. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for all your wonderful questions. As always, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, as well as all the amazing channels in the ufology community. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. I will be right back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And I will see you then. Bye-bye, everyone.
Scattering leaves, the days go, dragging us along like ragdolls. Make these moments move faster. It's our latest disaster. There's no place I'd rather be anyway. This will do for a while. Gather your thoughts so we can run away from it all and ease our minds. We'll try to make it all matter, pave the way for the shattering of youth. Promise our real lives not far behind. Leave nothing to chance and we will not find. Still, I'd like to be here for a while. Try to make it all matter, pave the way for the shattering of youth. Promise our real lives not far behind. Leave nothing to chance and we will not find. Still, I'd like to be here for a while. Still, I'd like to be here for a while. Scattering leaves, the days go, dragging us along.